Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Box podcast. My name is Mike Becerra, your host, and we are back after a bit of a break in our last show. But I'm thrilled to be coming back with, I would say, some fireworks by bringing onto the show Carey Houston, founder and I think CEO of 321 Growth Academy. Welcome to the show, Carey.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I know how awesome you are, and I know every great thing that you've done to an extent, I think. But for our listeners that might not have heard of who Carey Houston is, what is the background of Carey Houston? What are you doing? Maybe give me a little bit of a story of how you've came to be the founder of 321 Growth.
Sure. Well, I'm a longtime startup gal, as you know, Mike. I've worked in 6 tech startups, 3 of them in Toronto, 3 of them in Calgary. I actually started in tech as a product gal. And then had roles in product management, in marketing. I was a VP marketing 4 times, exec roles in sales and biz dev and ops. And now I'm spending my time with 321 Growth Academy. We started the company in 2017, and we're really focused on helping founders and their team members learn how to grow and scale their companies by learning the key skills that they need to do that, which is mostly focused around sales and marketing.
Love it. There's a lot there. So I have to tell you, I was doing a little bit of prep for our call because, I know you quite well, but I'm going to look through the LinkedIn and just see. So as you alluded to, you started in product, and then it looks like you went through into VP marketing, and then it appears that there may have been an acquisition or something. And then there was a bit of a transition. Maybe talk me through that transition from product to marketing to then, jumping out and doing your own thing.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think when I first started in tech, I was not in tech. I pivoted into tech, as is kind of common language now. But I was really desperate to get into technology. I had a finance degree and was right out of my MBA school. And I didn't want to do consulting. I didn't want to work for consumer packaged goods. I didn't want to be an investor. I really wanted to work in tech, but it was just a tricky time. And I was fortunate enough to find this one director of marketing that put me through a very aggressive series of interviews. And that was kind of what got me a product role. But from there, what I really realized is the difference between the product line that I was managing and the product line that other people were managing was revenue. My product line was a bit of a dog. And so that's kind of where I got really interested in how are we growing? Like not just how do we build products, but what are the other things that have to happen inside of a company to create a successful product. And a lot of that was driven by revenue and customer acquisition. So that was kind of the beginning of my interest in the growth side.
Love it. Okay. So then you're a corporate entity, and then you make that magic switch to consulting. And that you do that for a little bit. And then, correct me if I'm wrong here. And then you have this moment where I'm going to start 321 Growth. Talk me through what was the genesis of going from call it corporate for lack of a better word to, helping a lot of companies to, I'm actually going to, make a platform here with 321. What was that catalyst?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say I was between startups. I was trying to figure out, would I jump back into another startup or not? And I was while I was trying to decide that, I had a couple of coffees with friends. One of them was with Christina Williams, who is the CEO of Alberta Enterprise. And we were talking about how when I worked at Alberta Enterprise, which is an LP investor, we really noticed that a lot of outside investors necessarily weren't very bullish on investing in companies from Alberta specifically, because they felt there wasn't a lot of management talent. And we had identified a really big gap in the areas of sales and marketing. And we were having a coffee and she kind of gave me a little nudge and said, what are you doing about that? And I thought, that's fair. So I talked about some of the ideas I had, and she said, that sounds really interesting. I think you should explore that. And then I had coffee with another friend of mine, kind of a mentor, and I was a bit, honestly, I was kind of whining and complaining a little bit about how there was such a shortage of talent, especially in the marketing and sales space. And he really challenged me. He said, but what are you doing about that other than whining and complaining? And I thought, touche. And so those 2 conversations really got me. I spent a couple of months thinking about, what's required and am I the one to do that? And that was kind of the beginning of what turned into 321.
So that's really interesting because I would love you to talk me through that, because I imagine that's kind of something that you're going to tell a lot of companies to go and do themselves when they're starting to hear that message is being, said back to them. What are you going to do about it? That seems like a problem. Seems like you have the solution. What are you going to do about it? Talk me through where you went from that, like, this seems like something, to, okay, I'm validating. Like, what was that process for you? Because obviously, you're now building on that, and then, proliferating this forward. So
Yeah. And I would say I have the great advantage of my advanced years. So I have the advantage of kind of having been through this a few times, and having probably not tackled it the right way multiple times and had to learn the hard way. But with 3-2-1, I really was able to kind of do things in what I think is, I wouldn't say there's a right order, but a more right order, which is, really focusing first on the problem, and like deeply understanding the problem, why the problem exists, who it most affects, and then doing a sufficient validation to really de-risk the transition between, is this a cool idea, into, can this be a company? Because there's a lot of cool things. There's a lot of cool apps. There's a lot of cool technology and a lot of cool products that don't make themselves the foundation of a successful, sustainable company, a business. And so for me with 3-2-1, it really started with deeply understanding the problem, but then more importantly, doing enough validation to understand, are people going to pull out their wallets to solve it? Because without that part, it's not a business, it's a hobby. And as I always say, I'm not the Red Cross. I'm here, I believe in a free enterprise model. And so that's kind of where it came from, is how do we validate that there's enough pain here that people are willing to invest their time and money to solve it? So that's kind of what happened with 3-2-1.
So when did you know? Because I know a lot of founders ask this question, is, people keep telling me this, but I'm still kind of unsure. Like, I don't have that thing that I can point to and say, I'm 100%, this is something. How did you know?
That's a great question. I would say, let me take a step back, and I'll talk about the untold story of the genesis of 3-2-1, which is
perfect.
Which is, and don't tell anybody, but when it first started, we didn't know if it was going to be a thing. We didn't know if we could build like our inspiration. My inspiration was really to look at the very best tech accelerator models in the world and say, could we apply the best practices of accelerators to the rapid acquisition of skills? So not about getting a founder from an idea to a product, but getting them to acquire the skills rapidly that would allow them to grow in a compressed period of time where they could get to tangible outcomes. So that was the hypothesis. So I'm like, I wonder if this is a thing. So I went back and I said to Christina Williams at Alberta Enterprise, I'm like, do you think this is a thing? So we've had this conversation. You've got my imagination going. What do you think about if I solved it like this? And she said, that's really interesting. And I said, but would you put your money where your mouth is? So I asked them for a small sponsorship, not because I necessarily was reliant on the capital to get started, but because that was a really important signal for me. They were very motivated to see this problem solved. And if they believed enough to put a small dollar behind it, that was important validation for me. So I got the sponsorship, and then I was like, okay, now what do I do? And the next hurdle was really, can I get a small cohort of founders to commit capital, to commit their own money and time to participate in the first cohort, which was my MVP. So I went around and I scurried around and I sold the first cohort. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. So no company name, no brand, no website, no nothing. And I got, 8 or 10 people to say, I'm in. And then I built the course week by week. So the Thursday night before the first Friday session, I was madly building course content. And so for me, I didn't know that it was going to work until we did our very first demo day. We had some friends at Bennett Jones, which was a downtown law firm, because I had no budget, no space, no nothing. And they hosted us for our first demo day. And it wasn't until I started to hear the founders talk about where they had got to, kind of what the progress was that they had made. And, there were a few people that turned around in the front row, because I was sitting more towards the back, and they turned around and they said, are you recording this? And I was like, no, because I didn't think this was what I was going to hear. And so that was the moment when I thought, okay, this is interesting. This has some legs.
That is so cool. It's almost like you had your case study all put into one, and just going back there, that's to me, that's what pre-sales is in real estate, where you pre-sell the condominium. They're like, okay, I guess we have enough to build the tower, right?
Yeah,
Like that's what it sounds like, and
exactly.
which is another question that founders are always saying, like, when do I charge? Well, in your case, you charged up front, and then it was like, okay,
Yeah.
there's enough interest here on this topic
Yeah.
to go forward. So, okay, so that love it. So that's really, really interesting. So let's transition gears then, because we're talking about growth. And most startups, that is the number one thing outside of, I need to go raise $100 million, right? And so talk to me a little bit about the focus between sales and marketing as it pertains to growth, because I think there's a lot of confusion between, am I marketing? Am I selling? How do I grow this company? How does 321 view sales, marketing, and growth in general?
Yeah, great question. I think there are, two important perspectives that I would share. The first is that, and we say this all the time at 321, that sales and marketing are like the opposite sides of the same growth coin. That, depending on your business model, it's not very often that you have a pure play sales or a pure play marketing. There's if your B2C and your customer acquisition approach is primarily marketing led, you might still have affiliate programs, you might still have corporate partners, you might still have business development partnerships. So, and if your sales, it can be a tougher effort if you don't have support from marketing. And so we look at them as being super intertwined. They have to be intertwined. It's really challenging to think about functional success. I'm really successful in sales, but marketing didn't do their job. It doesn't work like that. It's, we all win and lose together. And so, I think thinking about how they can be intentionally more complementary, I think is really critical. And I think the other side of it, even I think back to, several startups ago, we used to call our teams smarketing before that was a word. And it was because sales and marketing sat together. We had joint meetings, we had joint planning. And in marketing, we always had we took the Hippocratic marketing oath, which is first do no harm, which is first spend no money. It's like, do the things that sales needs us to do and be driven by the same shared revenue goals. And so I think, I think sales and marketing often end up being thought of as departments or functions instead of things that we do. They're activities that are intertwined across the whole organization. Sales is joined at the hip with product. Sales is joined at the hip with CS and with marketing. And as each of those are intertwined. So we have to think of growth more as a process that flows through the organization, not as departments or teams that are silos working separately, because we can't win that way.
Well, there's something that you've said several years ago now, one of the talks that you gave, and it was a comment around the fact that sales and marketing isn't just about your product with your customer, but sales and marketing pertains to raising capital, to recruiting talent, to all the intricacies within your organization. And so, to take that forward, what you just said there, how sales and marketing is a process, I'd be curious on how you see founders coming in perceiving sales and marketing to how when they leave sort of, going through what you guys offer.
Yeah. It's funny. The line I always say in our sales course is, very few people are really excited to go tell their mom they just got a job in sales. And everybody's worried about being that salesperson coming across like that used car salesman, really pushy and aggressive. And I think that flawed perception is very commonly held. I think a lot of people think sales is not, a profession to be proud of. But I look at it that most things that we want to achieve in life are enabled through effective influence and persuasion of others to our point of view. Politics, parenting, recruiting, raising capital, all of those things rely on our ability to influence. And so one of the things that we often hear from people that graduate from our courses is kind of that they have, we have demystified it for them, that they now understand that sales isn't a dirty word. It's just a way of organizing and scaling your ability to help the people that you're really passionate about helping. And so, what I often ask people in our courses is, do you think that your product matters? Is it worth having in the world? And usually everybody says, of course it is. My product's awesome. And then I say, then why would you not feel great and proud to put it in the hands of your customers? Why would you not feel confident being persistent if you think it really matters? And if you don't think it matters, your obligation is to stop and go find something that does matter. But if you really think that it matters, your obligation is to sell it, because that's how you make a mark on the world. That's how you make your customers successful. That's how you make an impact. That's the path.
I love it, because I think there's that pre-programmed thought where sales is persuasion. Whereas to me, it's be reframed as, well, actually, sales is delivering value to people that don't know that there's that value that can be had, right? And communicating that proposition. So to me, that's one of the really interesting, I guess, nuances on how you shift that mindset going forward. So one of the things that I sort of like to talk about is that founder who says that they're not good at sales, right? So I've got this great idea. I've got, my MVP, I'm getting some good data, but I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at picking up the phone. I'm not good. What do you like? What's sort of the advice and the guidance? Because, I just want to go raise capital and hire that, that sharpshooter salesperson to come in and take care of all my problems.
The thing that I usually say is yet. You're not good at sales yet. I liken sales to, it's kind of like the difference between being like a master chef, Jamie Oliver, and a cook. So I can't bake to save my life. I'm terrible, but I can follow a recipe and do an okay job. I can be proficient. I don't have to be expert, but I can certainly be proficient. And so I think sales is like that. It is a thing that we do. It's not something that we are. And so therefore we can learn it. I'm not a baker, but I know I can bake. I just need a recipe. And so I think sales is very much like that. It's an important process that all founders have to know how to do at some point, because raising money is selling. Recruiting that really top-notch salesperson requires sales. Convincing your partner that it's not crazy to mortgage your house to fund your new company, that's sales. Parenting your children is sales. All of these things require great sales skills. And so we don't have to be expert, but we do need to become proficient to be successful. And so I think that would be kind of one of the key messages. So if somebody says, I don't want to sell, I just want to tinker, I would say, great, go get a job. You're not a founder. You're not an entrepreneur. Everybody has to sell all the time. So get good at it or get proficient at it, because that's what's required.
This makes me think back to a story that one of your graduates told at one of your events. And they said that they were looking to hire that sharpshooter salesperson. And in the meeting, the salesperson said, yeah, I love what you're doing, but before I join, I want you to pick up the phone and call one of your prospects and sell your product in front of me. And if you can't do that, I'm out.
Yeah.
So to your point, you've got to be able to bring on these really high rolling, sales executives and have the capital and the cash to do that. So, it's not as easy as just writing a check and making your solution go forward. So, okay. So shifting gears then. So I gotta be good at sales. I gotta be proficient. What are the other things that as a founder, I'm just getting going here, that I need to think through from a sales perspective and marketing to an extent, and what are those pitfalls that maybe a lot of people fall into along the way?
Yeah, I would say, it's interesting, because I would say we see a lot of the same pitfalls kind of across sectors, across geographies, across business models. They're all the same. And I think there's a common self-diagnosis. I think people think that they have them figured out, but they don't. And that gap between what they believe to be true and what is actually true, that's the risky zone for a lot of startups. And I would say the most common things that we see are, like, as we talked about before, not being relentlessly focused on the problem and making sure that it's a big, juicy problem that somebody wants to pay to solve, because otherwise you're spending, when people talk about, oh, my sales cycles are so long because I have to educate, it's like, well, maybe you just picked a problem that nobody really cares about. I think, making sure there's enough validation done up front, really de-risking the business early by validating, who's the best customer, the, big juicy problem, willingness and ability to pay, all that kind of stuff. And I would say, probably one of the most common ones is just not having sufficient clarity on who's the right customer for them right now. Who's the best, we call it ICP, ideal customer profile. Everybody seems to understand that, the whole world is not going to be my customer, but getting to a layer of nuance around kind of segmenting the market and really understanding not just who are the customers I want to go after, but what are the best customers for me to go after first. So like in the earlier example, in our first cohort of 321 wasn't a thing. There was no website, there was no company, there was no name, there was nothing. And so I wasn't calling strangers. I was calling people that I knew, people that were 1 degree of separation and that I could get a warm introduction to, because I thought, not because I thought that was the best customer, but because that was the best first customer. Because what I was really keen on was, can we get to big outcomes? And are people going to be willing to pay? And those were the 2 most important things that I needed to test early. And so I figured somebody that's never even heard of me or never heard of somebody that is in my trusted circle is probably not going to buy first. And so really getting clarity on who is that best early customer and learning from them before you try to go and tackle the whole new market. And I don't remember where I heard it, but it was kind of like the idea of the biggest change is 0 to 1, not 1 to 100. And so the biggest change in your business often comes from, I have a cool idea, but nobody's buying, to I have a paying customer. And so you don't need to worry on day 0 about getting to 100. You need to worry about getting to 1, and then 5, and then 25, and then 50, and then 100.
I love it, because the way that I always like to explain it is that you're in a hurdles race.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about crossing the finish line, but you have to worry about getting over that first hurdle.
Yeah.
And so, what is that first hurdle? What are your assumptions along the way? And how do you make sure you jump over that before you even start worrying about that second hurdle?
Yeah.
And ultimately you're de-risking for the lowest cost investment to get over that first hurdle or that next hurdle along the way to get to the end, whatever that end might be, an exit or whatnot. So I love that, because it sort of, I think it paints that picture of where it is. So the other thing then building on that is, when do I know when I need help? Because, one thing is I need to be good at sales. If I'm not confident enough in my product, I shouldn't be doing it. But sometimes, you want that help. So when should founders look to get outside help?
T-2, early, really early. I would say, the number of founders that I meet, it's heartbreaking. They're at the end of their rope. They have almost no cash left. They're out of their own energy. They don't have that resilience to do that last push. And they have just tried to figure it out the hard way on their own for too long. There are so many amazing resources and peer groups and mentoring programs and accelerators and incubators. I just think there's, in my opinion, there's no reason to do it alone. And there's no logical reason to do it. Like, why would you? Why would you not take advantage of all of, you can't take advantage of it all, but why would you not take advantage of targeted help that can help you get there faster? The key is that, in my opinion, the key is that you want to put yourself in a position to win really early. And I don't mean like win the big game, but you want to start stacking up your wins. I got an MVP, great. Now I've got a couple paying customers, great. Now I've got to build out my pipeline, great. Now I got to hire some people, great. And what I find is you need to my best advice would be compress that time, not because it's what's written in the lean startup book. You compress the time because I think it's positively correlated with winning. I think somebody asked me the other day on my team, they said, they were asking me a question, and I said, what makes you think I have the answer? There's no answer. Are you still there?
Yep,
sorry,
there.
my Wi-Fi just jumped.
That's okay. We can edit that out.
So someone on my team asked me a question, and I put it back to them, and I said, what makes you think that I have the answer? There's no answer. I don't know. You don't know. None of us know. But what I think your superpower should be as an entrepreneur or a team member in an early stage company is the figuring of stuff out. And so you've got to reorient yourself from my power and success comes from what I know to my power and success comes from my ability to figure stuff out and my relentless focus on number one, figuring it out.
And that's hard because sometimes that figuring it out is eating some humble pie.
Yeah.
And taking that feedback and recognizing that what you drew on that back of the napkin, 2, 3, 4 years ago may not necessarily be what's actually solving people's problems. And I know for a lot of, especially you apply that hustle mentality and the grind and all that. And, we're being told that you just determination, you're going to figure it out and you're just going to grind. And what I just heard right there was get help, get feedback, and do it quickly to give yourself the best chance of success.
Yeah.
And so to layer onto that, you've seen a ton of companies through your entire career. I would love to get your take on, outside of what we've already articulated, what are 1 or 2 key traits that you've seen differentiate the winners from potentially, the less successful and firms?
There's I don't know if I've shared it with you before, Mike, you might have heard me talk about it. I have this theory. It's a very simple theory, but I have this theory of people, that there's 3 kinds of people in the world. There's the people that want to be loved. And so the good thing about that is they are loved. They're lovely people. They're very nurturing. They're great at building relationships. So you often see people that want to be loved working in customer success teams or in account management roles, and they're good at nurturing. Sometimes you see people that want to be right. And the good thing is it's so important to them that they usually are right. Doctors, engineers, lawyers, software developers. And so that's good because you want them to care about being right a lot because the cost of being wrong is high. But I would say the third archetype is people that want to win. And again, it's so important to them that they're willing to work ridiculous hours and take big risks and do whatever it takes to win. The downside is they can be hard on their people because it's so important to win. But I would say in general, really great entrepreneurs that I know are more likely I want to win people. And nobody's a pure. It's kind of like, I want to win with the side of I want to be loved. But in general, I would say really successful entrepreneurs have a healthy dose of I want to win. They're more interested in winning than in being right, than in defending their product idea. And so if the market is telling them that problem is not worth solving, their response isn't, no, you're wrong, let me tell you why. Their response is, then what's the one that is? And so that kind of that lens through which you look at the world is one of opportunity, which is, I want to go win at an opportunity. I don't really care if it's this one. And I think that mindset is so healthy. It's
I love it.
Chase the win. Don't defend your idea.
I'm applying my old geology life to this. We had what was called a ternary diagram, a triangle, and it was for mineral compositions. And I'm thinking, you've got relationships, winning, and being right. And I'm trying to picture where in the triangle I'm sitting here. It's an interesting little exercise. I'd be curious if you did it in your courses, but if you don't, you probably should, to see, where do you lie on that spectrum. So super cool. Okay. So, just to give a few more, I guess, takeaways before we sort of wrap things up here. If you're that founder and you're having the sales and things are going good, the question of resource constraints is always coming up. And one of the things that we constantly are getting asked is, how do I know where I'm focusing is the best ROI for my sales marketing efforts? So, a question that I would have for you is, is there a way to know when you've got all these platforms, and we said earlier, it's whatever's free, but how do you know that you're putting your best, your highest ROI efforts forward from a sales and marketing perspective? Yeah,
it's a really great question. And it kind of goes back to, what you were saying before about one of the common pitfalls. I think a lot of people, I think there's, that sales and marketing is a bit of a black box, that it's very mystical and hard to understand, but it's actually really not. It's science. It's not art. You got to do the math. You have to really understand we call it your growth math. So understanding, how you're going to price, understanding what your unit economics look like how long is your sales cycle. There's a lot, I would say, an unexpected amount of insight in the data. And a lot of people don't necessarily think about a data-driven approach to sales and marketing. I have a finance degree. And so people say, wow, you're not very creative. How could you be a VP marketer? I'm like, because marketing is math and sales is math. And so when we have that mindset of how do we make sure that we're, spending enough time, we're working on the right deals, we are focused on the right customer, we have good margins, we understand the length of our sales cycle, what those conversion points are. We can find a lot of that data in our pipeline if we look. And so we have to get out of the I feel, I wish, I hope, I want, I sense into I see, I can prove, I can validate.
Validate, the key one with data. So speaking of validating that and going on to what 321's offering. So I'm curious with what you're offering, we've talked a lot about earlier stages, but does this apply to kind of any stage, or where is that sweet spot, and does it differ by stages on where you guys can help with your programs and how that fits in?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's funny because when we first started, the hypothesis was we would need lots of different courses for different stages of companies, but we've had very experienced serial entrepreneurs go through our courses. And I thought, why are they here? Like, they could teach this course. And they found tremendous value in going through it and kind of relooking at their business with fresh eyes in advance of a step function in growth or a more strategic expansion. We've had brand new technical founders who've never made a phone call in their life and have found our courses kind of give them that confidence to take the first step. So I would say a lot of the fundamentals around growth are really the same, and our courses are kind of built that way. Like roughly the front third is really based on making sure that you have that solid foundation upon which you build your growth engine in your business. So kind of clarity on who's your customer and the value that you deliver and the problem that you solve and your unit economics, your pricing, all that stuff, having that really well solidified so that no matter what you layer on, if you start to feel some stress and strain, it's still solid. And then you can start layering on, a scalable sales process, your great campaign design and execution. But without that fundamental bit, the rest of it kind of falls apart. And I would say that's true whether you're a guy or gal with an idea in your garage or your home office during COVID, or you're a scaling company and you need to kind of get from here to here, but you better make sure that those fundamentals are solid. Otherwise, you're scaling failure, you're scaling risk.
Well, and the fundamental shift too, right? Because to your point earlier, the customers that got you to A won't necessarily get you to B, and so then rethinking it. And I see this all the time: is when you're in it, you don't really get to see the forest from the trees, and so it can be that really beneficial opportunity to take that step back and have that that third party perspective on it. And traditionally, this is where management consultants come in, or consultants come in and charge you an arm and a leg. And so it's really cool to have, something like what you're offering on both the sales and the marketing side, where you can kind of jump in there, take the program at the stage that you're at and apply it at that different, apply it at the way in which you need. Right. Yeah. And then the other cool part is now everything's virtual. So you can kind of do it on your own world, which is great. Right.
Yeah.
So
And we've had lots of our alumni companies, they take the course once and then they come back a couple years later, because they're at it, they've got different challenges. Their first challenge might have been to get started, but now they hired a salesperson, it didn't work out, and now they don't know why. So they need to go through the process again in a guided way to kind of get to that next level. So
love it. So just to round it out then, is there like a common thing that people say at the end of any of your programs? They're like, hey, this is the number one thing that I got, or is it kind of all over the place? I'm so curious.
I would say the number one in two things.
Okay.
I would say number one is confidence. That there was the fear of sales is real. The fear in marketing of, not structuring a campaign well and realizing you spent $10,000 on Google Ads before you woke up in the morning, that's real. And so I think, helping people to get over the fear of getting out in market and making themselves vulnerable in front of prospects, I think is a big benefit, because that's what allows a lot of people to just take that first step. The other thing I think is we give them a bit of a roadmap. So regardless of where they're at in the evolution, they kind of know how to get started. They know where to get started. They have their eyes wide open on where they're at, and they have a really good roadmap of what has to come next. So that, it's not like somebody after 3 months is going to come out of our course and say, wow, I've got everything figured out and everything's perfect, but at least they know what they have to do. It's very clear what they have to do. And so that clarity is helpful because it stops them churning a lot of time trying to find answers or trying things that were never going to work in the first place. So it kind of gets them on an accelerated path.
I think of the book Traction, the 19 channels of traction. And I remember in meetings just oscillating through that. Well, we could try this, we could try this. And, if only we had that clear plan with confidence to execute, we would have at least shortened that cycle to get to the hurdle, right? Which is all this thing going forward. So I think that's brilliant. And I'm not surprised. I feel like there'd be a number third though, the importance of a CRM, but hey, we don't have to go there. So just to round this out then, Carrie, for people that are listening and they, have really liked what they heard and they want to learn more about 321 or, how they could get help, how should they engage with you? What should they be looking to do? How do they find out more?
Yeah, so definitely visit our website, 321growthacademy.com. You can find information there on our lean sales course, which helps people kind of build that growth foundation, but then build out a repeatable sales process from prospecting all the way to closing. And then also managing the team, managing the sales function or process. Our growth marketing course, same thing, kind of work on the fundamentals, but then really understand the kind of marketing that's going to be successful for you, given your markets, your products, your product category, your business model. And then we also have monthly growth, we call them growth snacks. So they're kind of bite-sized learning for busy entrepreneurs and team members. And we do them roughly once every 4 to 5 weeks on a variety of growth-related topics. Those are all free, and you can find information about all of those on our website. Also encourage you to follow 321 and me on social, and that's where we talk about all the stuff that's happening.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom. And I highly encourage anybody and everybody who's thinking about growth to definitely look at 321 as something that can definitely put some fuel on the fire as they're taking things forward. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, Mike.